Bonjour, Natalie here. Welcome to FrancoFoods. Today, I'm making the delicate French treat, French macaron. Since I've been in a lemon mood lately, I'm gonna be making lemon macaron with different fillings. As I prepare my ingredients, I'm gonna get a few things straight. This is a macaron, or you could pronounce it macaron in English. This is a macaroon, and this is the President of France, Emmanuel Macron. Just to be clear, I've only made macaron once before, about 6 months ago during the holidays. It's not a complex recipe, but it does require practice because the technique to get the right look and consistency is somewhat finicky. I'm also hoping that adding lemon zest to the macaron shells is not going to mess it up, hopefully. I wanted to add lemon juice as well to really add a punch of lemon flavor, but I simply couldn't figure out when to put it in. Maybe once I've made macaron a few more times, I'll feel ready to add the extra liquid. Since my first attempt, I've read quite a bit about how to make macaron. Although some details do vary, one aspect that is consistent is the importance of sifting the ground almonds to make sure they are super fine. I bought almond flour, which really is super finely ground almonds. And that seems to do the trick. However, if there would have been too many big pieces of almonds when I was sifting, a trick is to pass that in a food processor to make it even finer. So in preparation for this episode, I thought I want to be able to speak about where macarons come from. I figured this should be simple, from France, right? Well, little did I know how long and varied the history of the macaron truly is. It goes at least back as far as the 8th century, when it was made in, wait for it, Venice, Italy. Okay, now that the flour mixture is sifted, I'm going to separate the eggs. To make the meringue, you need egg whites. It's very important that there be no yolk whatsoever in the whites, or they simply are not going to fluff up properly. Okay, so one of the yolk broke and I can't get it out of the white. So I guess I don't have a choice. I'm going to have to set this aside and start again. Unfortunately, these eggs are not going to be room temperature. I hope it doesn't affect the whipping process. The first one broke again. Hopefully, third time's going to be the charm. To make sure, I'm going to crack the eggs in a separate bowl first. Some days are simply more challenging than others, and seems like this is one of these days. That's okay, I'll get it. So how did the macaron make it to France? Well, it seems that in 1533, Catherine de' Medici from Italy was betrothed to Henri of Orléans, who later became King Henry II of France. She brought her favorite treat with her, which became known as macaron in French. Since I'm making lemon macaron, I'm adding yellow food coloring to the mixture. I tend to prefer gel food coloring because I find the color more intense and it doesn't add liquid to what I'm making. I'd say, honestly, it's all a matter of personal preference. Now I'm beating the egg whites until they reach a firm peak consistency. It's time to fold in the meringue into the almond mixture. Honestly, I'm a little nervous here. Some of you may remember this is a challenging area for me. I do tend to overmix and be heavy-handed. If this happens, the shells simply won't bake properly. What I mean by that is the shells will crack and cave in. At least that's what happened last time. I've been watching a lot of videos on how to fold eggs into mixtures, so I hope it pays off. Once Catherine de' Medici introduced macaron to the French royal court, these treats quickly became a favorite of the royals and the elite. Then, in 1787, the French Revolution started, and that changed everything, including who was able to enjoy macaron. Time to pipe the shells. I want to keep them uniform in size as much as possible, so I've drawn circles on the parchment paper. That said, I don't want the pencil to touch the food, so I'm turning the paper around. Easy peasy. I have a special shout out today to Caro McSorley. Caro is the amazing artist who drew the avatar of me for FrancoFoods, and I think she made me look nice. Thank you so much, Caro. I really appreciate it. If you want to see what else Caro has done, check out their link in the description. When piping the shells, I'm trying to keep them all the same size and thickness. I'm being successful to a varying degree, but I am improving, so I'll get there. While the macarons sit, I'm going to work on the fillings. I'm making 2 types of ganache. The first ganache I'm making is with white chocolate and blueberry puree. I'm hoping the blueberry puree gives a nice color to the ganache, as well as a nice blueberry flavor to the white chocolate. The macarons have been drying for 30 minutes now, and I'm checking their dryness. The shell doesn't stick to my finger, so time to bake. If it did stick, I'd wait a bit longer. During the French Revolution, in 1792 to be precise, in the city of Nancy in France, 2 Carmelite nuns brought macarons to the populace. They baked and sold macarons as a way to support themselves while they were taking asylum in Nancy. These weren't yet the sandwich cookie we know today, but these macarons became popular throughout France. The nuns became known in the region as the Macaron sisters. They were instrumental in making macarons famous. To make ganache, the ratio of chocolate to liquid, cream or otherwise, is 2:1. It's an easy thing to remember, so you can make a variety of flavored ganaches. Something really important to remember: chocolate and water do not mix. Make sure the container you use to melt the chocolate is bone dry. Also, that the liquid you do mix in to make the ganache is similar in temperature as the chocolate, or the chocolate will clump and you cannot come back from that. The second ganache is a simple dark chocolate ganache. I figured chocolate and blueberry are 2 flavors that go really well with lemon. To melt the chocolates, I simply place the bowls over steaming water. Make sure the hot water does not touch the bowl of chocolate though, or it'll cook the chocolate instead of melting it. Again, something you cannot come back from. Finally, in the 1830s, a French baker, there does not seem to be a consensus on who that is, by the way, thought it would be a good idea to take the simple macaron and turn it into a sandwich cookie. Whoever that person was, they were right. Okay, so I heated the blueberry puree too much. I need to let it cool before I mix it into the white chocolate. Fingers crossed. What was I saying about clumping? Well, when it gets like this, you can't save it. Only one thing to do. Take 2. Phew, okay, glad that one turned out. This week's vocab is Tamiser, le sucre en poudre, la poche à douille, le papier parchemin, la noix de coco. The shells are baked and cooling, and the ganaches are also cooling. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of white chocolate ganache for the macaron. However, I have leftover lemon cream cheese icing that I think will do quite nicely. Time to put the macarons together. They're not all even, and some are a little overcooked. Also, they're a little taller than I had hoped they would be. The texture on top is bumpy. I think in my nervousness of overfolding the meringue, I might have actually underfolded it instead. That said, I am very happy none of the shells collapsed this time. I'd say that's progress. Okay, so finally, in the history of the macaron, in the 20th century, at the Pâtisserie La Durée in Paris, they added color to the shell batter and created the macaron that we know and love today. As I assembled the macaron, I tried to match the sizes as best as possible. I have to say, the blueberry ganache, although not as purple as I'd hoped, turned out nicely. It pipes really easily. The chocolate ganache, however, is still a little too runny. Instead, I'm going to spoon it on. Honestly, there's no rule that says you need to pipe the filling, right? If you don't have piping bags or tips, just go ahead and use a spoon. And finally, the lemon cream cheese icing. I'm also going to spoon in that one. So I won't lie, I really was hoping for macarons that look more like those we see in a pâtisserie. They're definitely not as delicate looking. Well, I guess the flavor is what's most important, right? They are crunchy, but chewy on the inside, so that's good. The lemon flavor is very, very light, almost hard to discern. So I need to figure out how to further add flavor to the shells, I think. The ganaches taste good, and the icing does work really well, so I'm happy about that. All in all, I wouldn't say it's my finest hour in baking, but I'm encouraged that they are better than my first batch. So I'm going to keep practicing. I'll keep you posted on my progress. Until next time, merci et à la prochaine!